the Talk Part 2, and I am so glad you're able to join us today. Today I'm live here in Detroit, and I am with two of my very, very closest friends who we've grown up with. Karen Nisi Caldwell.
Yay.
And Tracy Lewis Jennings.
Hi.
Welcome to the Talk Part 2, ladies.
Thanks for having us.
So glad you're here. And, you know, if you tuned in for the first time, my name is Joy Trammell. I am a change of life consultant. I'm also the creator of Heavenly Breeze Cooling Mist, the all-natural body spray for hot flashes and night sweats. And also, we want to remind you that the things that we're talking about here on the Talk Part 2 are for educational and informational purposes only, not intended to replace the advice of your doctor. So today we're just having a little conversation, a live ladies talk, so to speak. And, you know, since we've all grown up together, we have watched each other through many transitions, through marriage, through childbirth, through divorce, through our bones creaking, to our mood swings, and all those other things. One of the things I want to ask you, Nisi, do you all remember your mom sitting down talking to you all about having that first talk about your periods, the birds, the bees, and things like that?
No.
Well, you know, now they did it in Highland Park Public Schools. We actually
Had the movie.
Yeah, we did.
and they started talking about it. I think that was in the 60s, actually.
But yeah, that was the talk, was going to getting the permission slip signed.
I remember that. Mm-hmm.
But other than that, no. My talk with my mother as far as beyond the movie was one day there was for those of you who are younger than us, you wouldn't know, but it was a sanitary belt.
Yeah,
Oh,
I remember that.
yeah.
I remember that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And it was on my
remember
dresser.
that.
And I looked at my mom. I said, "Is this yours?" She said, "No, it's yours." AKA the conversation.
Okay.
Mm.
Well, my mom had that slight conversation. I mean, it literally was that slight conversation, enough to know where the babies came from and that I didn't want to get pregnant at 12 because I was going to be killed, okay? And also, I remember having my first period. Actually, it was Christmas Eve, 1972. And I was at my auntie's house and I experienced my first period. But because I had that talk with her, it didn't shock me. So, you know, I had to proceed to tell her that we needed to go to the store and get something for it. But she did help prepare me a little bit. Now, what she didn't prepare me for was this next phase of life, that journey, that change of life journey, okay? Only thing I remember her telling me, one day she was getting out of a chair and she was literally scooting out of the chair. And she says, "Yeah, you just wait till you get older. You'll know what I'm talking about." So how about you? What have you been experiencing as you've gone through this change of life journey yourself?
Well, you know what? I thought I had got away with it. I had some early signs of menopause in the beginning, but then I had a hysterectomy, and I was like, "Hey, I'm done." And then one day, it was like, whew, and it felt like something had just hit me right in the middle of the center of my being. And then all of a sudden, it sat there for a second, and then it just blew out, and this enormous amount of heat hit me from the top of my head to my feet, and I just started sweating profusely. You know that Namaste commercial? Namaste.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it was over, and everybody looking at me like I'm crazy because I'm wet and ain't nobody else wet and it's cold outside. What's wrong with you? You know, but that was, I started calling it the blooming onion.
I remember you telling me a little bit about that. And it's been a challenge ever since. What about you, Tracy? She's been one of those fortunate ones that
I didn't start my period until I was 14. I thought something was wrong. Everybody else had developed and was having stuff, and I'm like jumping up and down going, "Where is my period?" That was one. And like Nisi, had the hysterectomy, but apparently they left something in there or something because I didn't have anything.
They left eggs for me too, but them suckers they shriveled up like raisins, and when they shriveled up, it was over.
Well, I've been fortunate. That's not my issue. However,
bless God, you can put some oil in the bottom, pass it along.
But you know, I think when we talk about menopause, we always go straight to a hot flash. But there's so many other things that go along with
right.
it.
Mm-hmm.
So the sleeplessness and the weight gain and I'm not moody, but I'm cryy. I can cry quickly. So those are the kind of symptoms and things that I think that I would say that I would identify with my symptoms, if you want to say that that's where I'm at. I'm fortunate. I don't flash.
That's awesome. And you know, that is one of the things that we've learned, that 75% of women will experience the hot flashes and the night sweats. So for some women, menopause comes in like a roaring lion. It is bold in your face. You will experience the 7 dwarfs of menopause: itchy, bitchy, sleepy, sweaty, bloated, forgetful, and psycho.
All of them.
All of them. Wow. And then for others, it's like a lamb. It is mild and meek, and you hardly know that it's there. You know,
but you know, I have to say that just because you're not sweating and been out of shape, sleeplessness is rough.
Insomnia is rough thing.
You know, I think the hot flashes and the night sweats, even though they're very uncomfortable, they're just the outward manifestation of it. It's the sleeplessness. It's all your hormones going wacky on it. You know, for a lot of us who imagine themselves being 36, 28, 38 in their mind, because that's what they were when we were in high school.
Right.
Those hormones and stuff get to kicking, and regardless to what you do to try and keep yourself at a certain level, they just go ballistic on you. You know, that's the inward. Then it start messing with your mental psyche.
That is true. That is true. As a matter of fact, estrogen, which is a female's primary hormone, controls over 400 body functions. Everything from the moodiness to our memory loss, which is, you know, we're walking in the kitchen and all of a sudden you forget what you are
going to get.
What was I going to say again?
Yeah.
Yeah. You forget what you're going to say, okay? You know, so it's just amazing. One of the things that happens too is that inflammation begins to occur in our body. As we get older, we end up with a lot of inflammatory issues, digestive issues. It's just getting old. Being graceful is a good thing, but there's a lot of things that happen when you're getting old. I seem to have a lot of challenge with sleeping issues.
It's sleeplessness. And then that little anxiety thing kicks in too. Mm-hmm. You know, anxious for what? Cryy for what? Those are some of the things that I can say I can attribute to being at this part of the journey. But for the most part, I think I'm just still celebrating the fact that I'm not sweating at any given time because I'm in meetings all day. Not to say that what other people are doing isn't important, but I couldn't imagine, and I've seen some women do this, that they break out, they're in the middle of a conversation, they break out and it's pouring. Now you're in public.
And you feel embarrassed a lot of times too.
Because your clothes is wet, your hair standing on top of your head.
Very embarrassing, especially when you're in a room full of men.
Right.
You know, who have no clue or sympathy. So, you know, it's really a serious thing to talk about, but I like to think that we're doing it gracefully.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And you know, it's interesting because nowadays we sometimes go to our doctors, and doctors are wonderful. They help do a lot of different things, and they have a lot of different specialties. But I was reading a recent article in AARP, and they were talking about this article that most medical schools and resident programs, they don't actually teach their physicians anything about menopause. And that is very interesting because with 6,000 U.S. women going into menopause every day, that's an issue. And, you know, the numbers are showing that by 2020, there will be 50 million women entering menopause. And so if we don't have the medical community on board to really help us with the symptoms and the things that we're going through and kind of just throwing a bunch of things at us, it's going to be a real challenge. You're going to see more people sick, more people with having heart attacks, more people, you know, with a lot of different illnesses,
mental illnesses
that are sometimes related to the hormonal imbalance that are in our bodies.
You know, for me, I had mentioned to my medical physician I wanted my hormones checked. She told me, you don't need that. And I'm like, well, they go up and down. She says, but what I'm telling you is you don't need that. And I'm looking at her going, I could tell that you could use some hormone therapy. One, you're not listening. You're short. I saw you perspiring. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So you need something with your hormones. But here it is, a medical professional saying just flat out no.
Right.
And that's scary.
Yeah, Joy and I were talking about that earlier today, and it's like the medical field is no longer the medical field. It's the insurance company and the pharmaceutical company.
Oh, absolutely.
And the doctors are just people who are there to facilitate the situation.
Wow.
Because back in the day, the doctors took care of you. Now they have a pill for this, have a pill for that. You sit up and watch the soapies, baby, they got a pill for everything. They got a pill for your bleeding. They got a pill for diabetes. They got a pill for your estrogen. Then they back it up with a law firm who tell you if you took too many of them. Yeah. No.
And you were talking about some of the other symptoms. I think the other thing that comes to mind is when you talk about the diseases and things, if we don't address it properly, lupus, fibromyalgia, there's so many of these diseases that really attack women.
That's right.
And what you find out is, sometimes you have somebody in their 20s, but generally it's latter 30s on up to the 60s that really are affected with this, and they don't have a clue on why. And I can't help but think that, hormones and the fact that your body is going through some of those changes would be an attributing factor to that.
Yeah. Another thing, too, that contributes to it is stress. When our cortisol levels are out of control, which high cortisol levels can mimic menopausal symptoms as well. And when those things are out of control, again, it's going to affect a lot of different areas of our body. And if we don't have the right treatment for it, then it turns into a bigger situation. And then sometimes, again, as we're saying, the doctors will give us medication for depression when it's not really depression. Again, it's a hormonal imbalance. And then there's other side effects that we get from the medication that we have to take another pill for.
Vicious circle.
It becomes a vicious circle.
When you had sent me on this journey, Joy likes to send people on little journeys. And go check this out. So she sent me on this little journey, and being in science, it kind of took me back to the beginning. You know how you do your basic anatomy and stuff like that. But just like you were saying earlier, your cholesterol levels and all that, basically what it boils down to is your whole endocrine system. Your thyroid gland, your pituitary gland, your liver, your adrenal glands. The thyroid gland does that little thing, look like a little butterfly right here, but it do some stuff. And the thing of it is, if you're not one thing off, it sends something else off, which sends something else off, which sends something else off. And nobody it's an abdominal effect. Like, okay, the women in my family, if I was to take, regardless to how thin we are, if we were to take a cholesterol test, we would show high, borderline to high cholesterol. And so we break into the diets and all this other stuff. So while I was on this journey that Joy sent me on, it brought back to my remembrance that the liver kicks off cholesterol. But what it's doing is protecting the body because of something else that's going on, and it sends off the alarm, and so the high cholesterol levels kick out to try and grasp around it like a candy, like hard candy around a soft bubblegum ball to protect the body because it doesn't know what to do with it. AKA, you take a blood test, you have high cholesterol. So you don't really have high cholesterol. It's your hormones that are, it's all those, everything is on the blink, which is sending off these false messages.
Exactly. And if you check the estradiol level, normally it's going to be associated with that hormone.
Right.
Because again, estradiol is one of women's main hormones. And when it is beginning to decrease, it will also affect our LDL levels, which again, the cholesterol levels, contributing to the weight gain and contributing to heart disease, cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, all those things because of our hormones.
And all these are symptoms when it's actually our adrenal system that's off.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like there's a lot of research on that either.
There's research, but they don't acknowledge it as medicine. It's just research, like leaky gut. You know, they're just starting to talk about leaky gut. And leaky gut is microbiotic waste that leaks through the abdominal tissue, and it goes to the liver, it goes to the heart, it goes to different organs, which causes toxicness. Now you hear us talk about a lot of detox. Well, we just say, okay, we detoxing, but we really don't know what we're detoxing.
You need to heal that gut first, because again, 60% of body function
is coming
from the gut. And like you were saying with leaky gut, normally your gut is like this, so that, you know, things flow and they don't get through. When you have leaky gut, it opens up like that, and the particles are able to get through and go into the bloodstream, into other parts of the body, you know. So,
and AKA high cholesterol, your cortisol levels. It's like, hey, we got to protect this. Fat belly, you know, sleeplessness. All this stuff comes from the basic leaky gut, which causes everything else to go haywire.
You know, I'm listening to all of this, and I start thinking about more serious things. We talked about cardiac issues, but when you get that weight gain and it's around the middle part, now you're a candidate for diabetes.
Exactly.
And so that's another serious thing to look at. So, Joy, you've been doing a lot of research. So what do you have to tell us today about some of this? I know we can't hit it all, but
Jesus, no.
You know, one of the things that I found that changing your diet has a great deal to do with a lot of different things. You know, cutting out some of the greasy foods, cutting down on the processed sugars, making sure that you're eating a lot of vegetables. And, you know, we're going to talk about that, or we talked about that a little bit last month in the month of September. So if you didn't get a chance to see that series, you can go back and check it out. But exercise is another thing. I know for me personally, my digestive system slowed down tremendously as I aged. And if I don't get any exercise, be it walking, jumping jacks, push-ups, or whatever, my system will stay slow. But the minute I start doing that, everything flows. So, you know, some of the other things that we can do to help to balance your stress levels and stuff is meditate. Because here's one of the things that I find out that we do. We're so busy trying to be good wives, be good mothers, good, you know, caregivers, because some of us are taking care of grandchildren, taking care of parents, you know. And so as women, we don't take the time to take care of ourselves. So it's really important that we find some time to meditate, to breathe, try to get a routine of being able to get into bed early. Supplements, there are wonderful supplements that are out there. Things like there are great things for calcium and great things for magnesium. Calm is one of the supplements that I like to help sleep. It's magnesium. It relaxes you. It relaxes the muscle. It helps with the adrenal glands and your cortisol levels as well. Adaptogenic herbs are another thing that's really good. They're natural herbs that are not mind-altering, but they also help the cortisol levels as well as the adrenal glands and give you a boost of energy as well. So
melanin is good for sleep.
Melanin is good for sleep as well. So there are a number of things that we can do. I know some of you all love chocolate, and chocolate was one of my weaknesses, but I've learned to like dark chocolate, and there's some great dark chocolate candies, cakes, and things like that are out there, because dark chocolate has magnesium in it. That's good for us. You know, there are good carbohydrates, carbs that we can eat as well. Things like sweet potato, green cruciferous vegetables. Those are all things that we can take into our body to help us to level some of the things off. And then I would also suggest that perhaps finding a integrated physician, functional doctor, and it's not going to be cheap, but
bioidentical hormone replacement therapy.
It's
Wonderful.
Worth it, though. It's worth it.
It's definitely worth at least investigating, because it at least gives you an idea of where you are or what's going on with you, and so you can at least, you may not be able to do the whole gamut, but at least you kind of know, hey, this is something that I should pay attention to, because there's so many diet programs and so many things out there. It's like a ball of confusion now. You don't know which one's good, what's not good, which one's full of fillers, like we were talking about earlier. You
Vitamins,
you need the USP signal on there to know that it's actually good for you, because some of them are like filled with sawdust
or other different
and other supplements, fillers in them, as opposed, you got the capsule, and half of it might be what you want, just enough for the FDA to say, yeah, it is, but then the rest of it really isn't.
Right. And so you're looking for a higher quality medical grade supplement, sometimes not always finding the ones at the familiar vitamin chains or the drugstores, but definitely one of the things is to look for that USP seal as well, which,
authenticates.
Exactly. So, ladies, I'd like to thank you for joining me here today, and I'd like to thank you all for joining us as well as at the Talk Part 2. If you would like to get in contact with me or find out more about our products, you can visit our website at www.heavenlybreezecoolingmist.com. Again, that's www.heavenlybreezecoolingmist.com. We're going to look forward to seeing you next month in November. We'll have a wonderful special guest there. Tune in. And again, thank you for joining us at the Talk Part 2, where we rise by lifting one another.
Amen.
Good night.
Yay. Good night.
Bye.